Any face can be the face of addiction. It can be you, your family members, your boss, your teacher, your significant other, even that person you sat next to on the bus this morning. Addiction is no joke. It is known as a brain disease that heavily affects the reward pathways. These pathways reside in the limbic system, which are responsible for emotions and the formation of memories. The reward system is stimulated by pleasurable behaviors like eating, drinking, social interaction, and sex. The reward pathway rewards us by releasing a neurotransmitter known as dopamine, which produces pleasurable feelings and makes a person want to repeat the current action when they feel the need. Behaviors that aren't so good for us, like spending way too much time online, gambling, or even drug use, can also stimulate our reward pathways. When one continually abuses a substance such as alcohol, nicotine, or cocaine, the reward system is tricked by turning natural needs into drug needs and increases the amount of dopamine in the system. This is what leads to addiction. It is true that prolonged exposure has damaging effects on the brain, but the brain is also amazingly resilient and can heal over time with the proper measures. Everyone is different, so treatments may vary in achieving sustained abstinence. But recovering from addiction isn't just about quitting the drugs. It is about recovering the self that has been lost. Depending on the drug, physical withdrawals may take place, but emotional withdrawals are also caused when the stimulation of an addict's receptors decrease. Detoxification and medical treatments alone do not focus on the psychological, social, and behavioral problems associated with addiction. This unfortunately does not achieve the lasting behavioral changes necessary for recovery. So for addicts who come into treatment feeling emotional withdrawals, music can be used as an alternative way to feel excitement, relaxation, security, positive change, and a sense of meaning in their lives. Studies have shown that the human brain has an implicit musical ability. Music is not only beneficial for our emotional states, but also our intelligence and general cognition. The very pathways that gave feelings of reward during drug use are the same ones that can be activated while dancing, singing, creating, reading, performing, or even listening to music. Addicts often suffer from short-term memory loss, difficulty focusing, cognitive deficits, and much more. But by using music in a therapeutic manner over long periods of time, it can play a major role in the healing of brain function and structure that has been damaged by drug abuse. But how does music have such an impact on our brains? First, I'd like to share some of Hamlin's beautiful piece, Un Sospiro. Believe it or not, listening to this piece just simultaneously activated neural networks all over both hemispheres of your brain. Certain tasks, such as reading or doing math, will only activate limited areas. Un Sospiro just resonated through all 4 lobes of your brain, which includes the frontal, temporal, parietal, and occipital, plus the cerebellum. As soon as the song was played, your auditory cortex worked with your cerebellum to process the signal into information about frequency, pitch, spatial location, timbre, amplitude, duration, and much more into a unified musical experience. Your brain did all this work in just a split second when you first heard the music. This display of musical notes activated your visual cortex, but it is also activated when simply watching a performer or your own movements. What did you think of when listening to this piece? The images or thoughts you just had in your mind activated your sensory cortex. Did you have any expectations of where the tune will lead? This creation of expectations, like waiting for that bass to drop or the chorus to begin, activates the prefrontal cortex. But what about this tune? Did you find it hard not to tap your foot, snap your fingers, or bob your head to the beat? Your motor cortex and cerebellum just work together to achieve that irresistible movement is also activated when dancing or playing an instrument. But the cerebellum also works with the amygdala and nucleus accumbens to produce emotional reactions. What emotions did you feel when the piece was played? Since memories are not stored in a centralized location in the brain, music also serves as a powerful stimulus for evoking memories, all thanks to the hippocampus. If you ever hear these pieces or maybe even something like them again, it may provoke memories of this class. Music presents many connections in the brain, and it is simply impossible to keep track of all of them. It is safe to say that any of these areas appear to be linked to reward, motivation, emotion, and arousal, which are also ironically linked to what happens in the brain of an addict. Some addicts have expressed their preference for music that has a human touch. This involves a singer, lyrics, and acoustic instruments as opposed to electronic, computerized music. In fact, electronic music is considered a potentially dangerous genre, as well as heavy metal and rap. These genres of music are usually heavily associated with drug use, based on the social environments they rely on, the emotions they evoke, and especially the lyrics. It is likely that these genres can have negative effects on addicts and can even tempt some to slip back into their old ways. It is absolutely vital to identify an individual's high-risk relapse factors, which include people, places, and things, and these genres of music can unfortunately fit into these factors. Although listening to music activates our brains in many ways, playing a musical instrument engages practically every area of the brain at once. Disciplined and structured practice is found to strengthen brain functions, even enabling us to apply that strength to other activities. This allows the motor cortex to utilize both sides of the brain and even strengthen the bridge between the two hemispheres, known as the corpus callosum. This allows messages to get across the brain through more diverse routes at an even faster pace. Because of this, musicians have higher levels of function, especially towards planning, strategizing, attention to detail, and memory. But you certainly do not need to be a musician to achieve these benefits for yourself. Any face can be the face of addiction, but the question now becomes, why isn't music a part of your recovery strategy?